Oh yeah, my bad. Sorry, I was still in mute. Thank you so much, Youssef. So, hi everyone. As I was saying, thank you so much for coming up to this webinar. Normally, you should be able to hear me now. I am not in mute anymore. Again, still no sound. Okay, that's weird stuff here. Okay, I think now everyone should be able to hear me properly. Okay, right. Sorry, I think I have a bit of delay compared to the chat for my feed, so sorry for this. Perfect if everyone can hear me again, and I'll start this introduction for the third time now. Welcome to this webinar about generative AI and prompt engineering. So without further ado, we are going to start up. So normally everybody should be able to see my screen and my presentation. So we are going to dive into generative AI. Just a quick word about me. So I am Christophe. I'm working with the pedagogical team of data scientists. And today, the objective for this webinar, for this 1 hour session, is to give you a quick introduction to generative AI, give you the keys to prompt efficiently using large language model, LLMs, and also understanding the limitation behind generative AI. Sorry. So first, the fundamentals of generative AI. Then we'll go to the good practices about prompting. I will do a quick demonstration of Microsoft Copilot. And then we are going to check out a bit more about the environmental impact that AI and specifically LLMs has on the environment, of course. And we will end with a quick conclusion. If you have any questions during this webinar, don't hesitate to ask into the comments, and I will have a time at the end to answer everyone. And if I see a very interesting question or one that is on point, I will, of course, answer it on the fly. So first things first, before going right into Chat GPT or the LLMs, let's go back to the fundamentals of generative AI. So basically, artificial intelligence is defined as such. This is a simulation of human intelligence by machines. Okay, so basically, we try to have the machine mimic, copy cognitive function from the human brain, such as training or adapting to new outputs, stuff like this. Okay, so AI is divided into several fields. So today we are just going to see a few of them. The first one, so the broader one, is artificial intelligence. So basically, as I said, it's approaching the capability of a system from human cognitive function. And so at first, what was happening is that basically you were putting into your algorithm a set of rules in order for it to kind of predict the outcome. So we'll see examples later on, but for instance, for medical diagnosis, you were putting inside the algorithm like the different rules about a disease. For instance, like if the person had a cough and this and this and this, it results into being sick, for instance. So this was what we call this expert system. You define a set of rules, you put it into the algorithm, and the algorithm can then make the prediction. Then arrived the machine learning. It's quite different, and the main difference is that basically this is a set from the AI field where you basically do not give the rules to the algorithm. Okay, the algorithm define its own rules based on the data set you are giving to him. Okay, so technically you just put the data into it, and then the algorithm. So you need to choose the right one, etc. So there is a lot of things to do, but the algorithm then define its own rules to make the prediction. So it's quite different from artificial intelligence as such, and the system expert. Inside machine learning, there is what we call deep learning. Okay, and so basically, deep learning, you use multi-layered network in order to solve problems. Okay, so I'm not going to dive into what is deep learning and how it works specifically, but basically, it's complex multi-layered networks working together, much kind of what the human brain does. Okay, in order to obtain better predictions on things that you cannot do with machine learning. For instance, analyzing images, you need computer vision that is inside the deep learning section. And finally, inside of it, you have the generative AI, right? And so basically, you are going to create content. This is what is most known today, like Chat GPT or DALL-E. You are going to create new data or content using learned pattern, and it's going to be normally, most of the time, completely autonomous. Okay? So just in order for you to grasp a bit better how those different fields apply to your life or into your everyday life, the artificial intelligence, so the expert system, for instance, could be a good example could be the GPS, right? So basically, you input into this algorithm different rules about circulation, like if there is a one-way signalization, what should you do? If this road is blocked, what should you do? And so you tell the system what should the car do in this situation, in this instance. Okay, and so basically you're not giving the path to an algorithm that defines its own rules, right? It does not define the rules of the law, kind of, right? If you are going to drive into France or into London or into another country, there is rules that apply that are set by the state, right? And so the GPS needs to apply those rules, for instance. Okay, so basically you want to go from point A to point B, the fastest possible, and respecting the rules of the driving in the city, for instance. So this would be referred to artificial intelligence. For machine learning, a good example is the Netflix recommendation system, in my opinion, because basically what's going to happen is that every time you are doing an action on Netflix, watching a movie, opening a trailer, searching for something, etc., all this data is given to the algorithm of Netflix to help it give you the best selection of content possible. Okay, based on what you watched, what other people watched that watch the same thing that you did, etc., etc. Kind of everyone kind of knows how it works, and so it does not have a proper set of rules defined by a human first. You give him all the data, and he says, okay, if this person like this and this and this, it relates to someone that also like this and this. So I'm going to add into the new feed. Okay, you should maybe look at this or more like this, etc., etc. This machine learning is not only machine learning. Okay, the recommendation system is not only machine learning. There is other stuff with it, and specifically reinforcement learning, which is basically, well, to put it simply, giving the guidance to the model using feedbacks. So basically, when you say that you loved something or that you hated something, it goes into the data, and the algorithm is getting better at knowing what you want. Okay. For the deep learning, two examples, because this is a broad field, but today I just want to go on two techniques, right? The first one is the natural language processing, which is called, in short, NLP. Basically, it allows a machine to read, to understand, and to generate human language. Okay. This is a set of technique that basically is a fundamental of any generative AI tool. Because when you are using a generative AI tool, you are going to prompt to it. So you're basically going to write an instruction. And so if the model is not able to understand properly what you are writing to him, then it won't give you the proper answer. Okay. And so for this, it needs to understand the context. And this is, again, what natural language processing does. It understands the words and the sentence you're putting into a context. And so this natural language processing stuff, the NLP, is very, very important to understand as fundamental for any kind of generative AI system. The second one is computer vision, right? It comes up more and more. Basically, computer vision, it's you give an image to a computer and is able to recognize meaningful informations in it, okay? So for an example, autonomous cars that drive themselves, right? You have a computer that can make the car accelerate, turn right, turn left, go back, break down, stuff like this, okay? And you have cameras on this car that are going to basically take the feed of what's happening and understand what is on the screen, like, and derive meaningful information from it. Technically, it's going to be telling the computer, is this a pedestrian? Is this a bicycle? Is this, I don't know, a wall or something? And then in like, sorry, I'm losing the word. So depending on what the image shows, the computer will take a decision. Okay. So basically, it's translating images into data, kind of. So if it's a red light, it will recognize red from green, and it will slow down and brake instead of accelerate to pass. And finally, for generative AI, two main examples, I think the most common and known ones, it's Chat GPT, of course, and DALI, that is a text-to-image generative AI. Basically, you write a prompt, a text, and it gives you the image that you described into your prompt. And ChatGPT, sorry, is a text-to-text. So technically, you kind of write a text, a prompt, and it gives you a text following the instruction that you've given it. So just to summarize a bit of this, artificial intelligence, you can associate that to a GPS, right? It's following a set of rules defined by humans. Machine learning, a recommendation system like Netflix, is a good example. Deep learning, for instance, on your smartphones, when you are unlocking your screen with your face, it's facial recognition. This is computer vision. This is a set of the deep learning. The spell checker on Google, on your smartphone as well, on any kind of things, it's NLP at work, natural language processing, recognizing the words and proposing the right correction for it most of the time. And finally, into the generative AI, you can think of examples like DALI or Chat GPT, of course. Again, if you do have some questions or if something is not clear, do not hesitate to put it in the chat and we'll answer to it together a bit later. And now, so we've seen generative AI and all subsets of AI. And so now it's important to understand what is the LLM. Normally, it's a term that you have been hearing a lot. LLM stands for large language model. And it is a form of generative AI focused basically on creating human language. Okay. And remember that it is a model that is trained on vast data sets, right? For instance, the best example is was first trained on Wikipedia because there is a lot of information in it. But basically, that's the thing. There is two key things to understand. It is focused on creating human language, and it is trained on vast data sets to provide the best answer and the most relevant one to you based on your prompt. So now we're going to go to part 2 after this brief introductions on generative AI and check out the good practices about prompting. So I'm just going to switch and go very quickly onto ChatGPT, and I'm going to write a new script. So I'm going to ask him like create a course for about generative AI. Well, not a course, but a detailed plan for. Well. So basically, let's imagine I am an HR representative, and I want to introduce through a learning generative AI to my company, right? And so right now, what I've been doing is prompting to Chat GPT, please give me a plan for me to basically put sensitivity or knowledge around a training course for people in my company. But you see that my prompt is pretty general, right? And so the answer is giving me, though it's very, 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 very detailed. Okay, so we are working on 4.0 on 4.0, so it's a very good one. But you see, it's very, very, very detailed. I don't know if you see properly. I'm just going to zoom a bit. However, you see that it goes into very, very technical stuff. So if I am aiming on doing this for a company, most likely I want to keep it very simple for people to like it. And also, most likely, not everyone has a technical I would say, background. So maybe they do not understand what is generative adversarial network. Maybe they do not know what is DC GANs, right? Or autoregressive models, etc., etc. So this is a bit too much, I would say, right? It's diving too deep. And it's my fault, actually, because I did not give him any kind of precision. I did not give him like, is it going to be over 12 weeks, 6 weeks, 1 week? It should be in 1 day, maybe. Should it be like online, or should it be like autonomous? Stuff like this. So I'm just going to correct the prompt and give him a bit more context, actually. So I'm just going to give him like, imagine you are an HR representative, right? You want to create a course on generative AI for beginners. This course should be in 1 day tops. Should be 1 day max, let's say. It should focus on showing showing the I forgot in English. You practice. Sorry, the productivity. Sorry, yeah, that's the one. It's very close to French, actually, so I should have found it a bit earlier. Increase by using generative AI. And let's see what it does. So while it's going on, yeah, this means, so Clem, yes, this means that it must be framed as much as possible. Indeed. Basically, that's kind of a rule. You do not want to give him too much leeway, right? You want the prompt to be as precise and as short as possible. You don't want ChatGPT to interpret himself. You want to give him specific restrictions. You want to give him a rule. You want to give him a specific action, etc. And so you see that here he's doing exactly that. So 1 day, 8 hours, course objective, target audience, course outline. And so you see it's AI in everyday life, generative AI content creation, a break, okay, automation, practical applications and case studies, etc., and some learning resources. So this is way more general, way better for any kind of beginner to deal with, and basically it's more targeted because it does not show you how it works and how it was created and how to create your own LLM, but it shows you how to use it properly. Basically, this is kind of the plan behind it. Okay. So this is very important. And now we are going just to put this into words, right? So prompting, what's it is about? So in Chat GPT, so basically in ChatGPT, the common mistake when using it is that, again, people do not give him enough matter to give you a proper answer, right? And so you obtain something. Sometimes it's exactly what you want, but most of the time, if you are not precise enough, this is basically not going to work out and is going to kind of interpret himself what you want. And basically, even ChatGPT, that is extremely well made and very, very strong, is not able to read your mind. So you need to explain it exactly what you want. And it goes through this. First thing is the prompt formulation, right? You want to specify him a specific role. Okay, is he a CV writer? Is he a salesperson? Is he a therapist, an accountant, a pilot? I don't know. Anything that is related. And then you also need to have a specific goal in mind for him. Does he need to create a CV? Does he need to do an analysis? Does he need to do a translation, to write an article about something? To, well, you see the gist. You give him a specific goal. So basically, the instruction should be clear and very precise. Emphasis on precise, right? And if you're wondering how to communicate with ChatGPT, the real thing is to communicate with him into a natural language, right? You need to use a language that you would use with kind of anybody. Okay. Why? It's because basically ChatGPT or any kind of LLM was trained using natural language as its training base. So if you are beginning to go very deep into abbreviations or into professional jargon, technical jargon, etc., it won't work because it will be too precise and it won't have enough training on those kind of words or stuff to give you the relevant answer you're looking for. So stay natural and do not use abbreviation. Just to be clear, abbreviation could be interpreted in different ways. One abbreviation can represent many words, so no abbreviation. The other thing, so now you're giving it a role and a goal, a brief context, like give him something so you narrow down what's the purpose of your request, okay? So you are a salesperson, you want him to give you a plan for sales, for increasing conversion, for instance. Give him some context, like, is the team doing good? Is it the team doing bad? Do you need the action right now? Do you need the action for in 5 years? Stuff like this, okay? And basically keep the prompt as short as possible. So basically with context, the thing is that it depends what you want, right? If I'm a salesperson asking to give me a plan for or a brainstorm ideas, 5 ideas to increase sales, telling the model that I had a bad day is not that relevant, right? So doesn't really matter, and this is useless information for the prompt, and it could backfire, getting him confused. However, if I'm still a salesperson and I had a bad day, and I'm telling you I had a bad day, give me 5 ways to relax. That's very different because I have a bad day is actually very important and very meaningful for the model. Okay, so context and relevant information specifically for this prompt depends on what you really want the model to give you. And two other things that most of the time are forgotten, specifically at first. The first thing is include clear instructions, right? So basically the type of response you want. So do you want a plan in 5 points? Do you want a plan in 5 points for the next 5 years? Do you want a plan in 5 points for the next 2 days or stuff like this, right? So constraint and feedbacks. Basically, you can give feedback to ChatGPT either by clicking the thumbs up or the thumbs down, or just telling him, like, the answer you gave me was perfect, or the answer you gave me was not that great. And then you iterate on your prompt, you take it back, and then you kind of improve it. Okay? So those things are very important. It's pretty basic, kind of, but this is things to think about that sometimes you do naturally, but this way you know exactly what are the basis of a good prompt, and then you can go even further. The other good tip I can give you about prompting is what we call prompt chaining. Sorry, my screen is a bit, so it's called prompt chaining, right? And basically, the main rule here is you want to do several short prompts more than you want to do one big prompt, okay? The golden rule is that one prompt serves one action. You don't want to have several actions for one prompt, okay? Because the model will kind of get confused. So maybe with the new version is more able to maybe have several instructions, but I'm not too sure. And so just to be on the safe way, just a better prompt is a short prompt with only one action. So if you have one big task to give it, try to divide this task in several steps. So for instance, the first task would be just give me a summary of this document. So you input a document and you ask him to give you a summary of it. Okay, so he's going to write the summary of this document. Then you want from this summary to write an article. Okay, so based on what you've seen in this document and the summary you gave me, create a new article of 500 words, for instance, explaining the topic for beginners. So that's my second action. And finally, okay, this is great, but basically with ChatGPT, especially the version 3.5, when you ask him to give you something for beginners or explain it more simply, is giving you a lot of metaphors and comparison, etc. And maybe you don't want that, and they are a bit childish on top of this. So basically, the last action could be like change the tone to make it more professional and maybe cut it on the metaphors, for instance. And then it will give you one 500 words article explaining the topic for beginners in a professional way, right? And if you do it into one big prompt, basically one of these instructions will be misinterpreted technically, like the interpretation will not be right. So basically you could have a summary of the document, but the article would not be 500 words, or it will be like 200 words. The tone will not be professional, but it will be jokey, etc., etc. So very important, and it's way better to do it like this. 3 ways, 5 prompts or more, okay? And in order to win more time, actually, if you have a prompt, basically, that works, and you know you are going maybe to use it into say 7 weeks, or if in another month or something like this, and that it's going something that is going to be kind of repetitive, then there is no issues. You can just copy paste this prompt into what we can call a prompt bank, right? So technically, it looks like this. Oh, no, you don't see it, sorry. It was on another screen. So it kind of look like this. It's basically just a Word document, right? With different prompts that I put in order. So there's no, it's a basic prompt, it's not the prompts I'm using, but where I put into brackets what I should modify in order to have the right one. And basically, I'm just putting it there. The real important thing about this prompt bank is to know that you do not need to have a specific software for it. Just a Google Doc, you see, is enough. You need to structure it properly in order to find back exactly what you want. And you need to update it kind of regularly in order for you to have a prompt bank that is up to date, right? So it's just a quick tip. It's a nice to have, not a must have, but it's quite great to have it, and it wins you a lot of time. So I'm just going to take on a few questions that are in the chat. So I think Natalie sent me the 3 times the question, but I'm just going to answer one. So Clem, so you, just for people that don't speak French, Clem heard that you should say thank you to ChatGPT. and he's asking, is this like info or intox, basically? I would say it's intox, in my opinion. I have seen no difference by saying thank you to ChatGPT, except that he's saying you're welcome. And you don't really need to be that polite and saying, hello, how are you? Please give me this information, and then goodbye and thank you. Does not really matter. Um, Basically, maybe in 50 years where machine overpower us, maybe it would have made a difference, but I'm not too sure technically. So I would say it's no use to be that polite. But however, the most important thing is just speak to him kind of like if he was a human, right? Just natural language. That's the most important thing if you want to have the outcome, the output that you want, that you desire. However, if you want to be polite with him and speak to him exactly if he was a person, no problem, you can do it. Natalie, so does the way the instruction have, sorry, does the way the, sorry, I'm just going to put it here for everyone. Yeah, it does not really have an effect, I would say, to write the question like in a directive way versus a polite way. It's more about the content of your question, right? I would say that you can be as directive as you want or as polite as you want, as long as there is the key elements in it. I would say it's great. I would say it's different. Would prefer. Sorry, it's not me that would prefer, but I think it's better to be directive and concise, right? Short, because if you're too polite, you could be putting words and a manner of speech that is not adapted to a LLM, while directive, staying natural in the natural language and be directive, so very straight to the point, I think is the best way to communicate with the LLM for getting an outcome, right? Sharing the doc is not an issue. I could share it into the replay that will be on YouTube, into the comment section. No worries. Should we keep transcript? Sorry. So Andrew, should we keep transcripts of chat to show to the agent as part of starting similar prompts in the future? You could do it, right? It's prompting from an example. So basically, you are giving him kind of the answer that you are looking for, or a way of the like an example of the answer you're looking for, and it's a technique to get exactly the answer you want. So you can do it. I would say that you should not copy paste the full prompt, however, the full output, because it's many times way too long, right? So I would say like just take a sample of it and say, in this like looking at this example, do you copy paste the example? Give me an answer about this in the same way. So I'm not sorry, Timea, it's pretty interesting. So I'm not copying the response of ChatGPT in a doc. I'm copying the instruction I gave him into a prompt, into a document in order to reuse it later on to have another type of answer. Um, so it's an interesting question. So as a LLM is not good in math computation, is it possible to call Python function to respond correctly? I would say that it might be possible. However, I think, for instance, on ChatGPT, you would need to kind of maybe use an add-on. Maybe I'm not too sure. I never really used it in this way. But the thing is that I'm not even sure it would be working the best in this way, to be honest. It really depends on what you want to do, but I would not think that you can input functions, Python function into your prompt in order for him to give you the result you want. I would say maybe a detailed calculation of what you want is better, but I'm not sure you can input a function itself. However, if you want to correct code or something like this, it's pretty efficient, but I don't think that you can put Python function in it. Yeah, sorry, Andrew. I did not understand the question first. So yeah, you can ask him to review its own mistake, indeed. And yeah, Eddie, I will share the doc later on. So I think I did cover kind of from everyone in the chat. So how do you create, sorry, just one last, how do you create a prompt bank from question or from the Chat GPT response? So again, you do not create prompt bank from the Chat GPT question, you create it from the prompt. So basically you do the prompt, and if the prompt gives you the answer exactly that you want and it's working fine for you, you just copy paste the prompt into a doc, right? So the prompt is the instruction you're giving it. So moving on, basically, what you need to remember about efficient prompting, and this is a core thing, right, is that it requires several tries, right? It's an iteration process. So you need to do it several times before getting the right answer. And there is nothing bad in it. It's not you being bad or whatever. It's you being thorough and wanting a qualitative result. Okay. So the thing is that first prompt, the answer you have is like, let's say 70 or 75% proper compared to what you imagine. Then you are going to iterate on this first prompt and you're not going to copy paste it later on. It's an history and you're just going to tell them, yeah, okay, I want the same answer, but I want this on top of it and this on top of it. And then it gives you an answer that is 85% right, etc., and so on, right? You do need to do several prompts to have normally what you want at the end. However, always do, and this is a 100% thing you should do every time you're prompting, just do a proofreading of anything and double check the facts. Okay. Just go on and double check, even if it means like, and you can do it asking ChatGPT, like, what did you use as sources to give me this answer? What's your answer based on? And then double check that. Okay. So however good it might be, there is a few risks and limitations about using a LLM. The first thing is understanding niche context. So if you're working into a field that very few people know and that is not broad on the internet or into basically data, you might have answers that are not that great. For instance, if you are asking him about maybe very, very, very precise astrophysicist questions, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field, but he might have some trouble to give you a proper answer, and maybe it might be wrong, even what he's saying to you, right? If you are into finance and you're asking him specific stuff about finance, again, I'm not a specialist in this one, so I don't even know what question finance people do ask to anyone, but ChatGPT might not understand and might not answer properly and give you a proper answer. So niche contexts are very hard for him to understand, again, because it's not that broad. So basically, it does not have as much data to train on and give you the proper answer. Verify always that the data is up to date. So I think that 3.5, the last update is in 2023 somewhere. And for ChatGPT 4.0 is basically going to browse the internet. So just check out when you're using an LLM, kind of what was its last update about data, right? Third thing, and very important, it's copyright and ownership. Ownership, basically, and copyright. I think everybody, sorry, could see it in the news a few months back, even 1 year back, is that OpenAI was attacked in justice because of the content created. Basically, ChatGPT or any LLM is going to browse the internet or check its database to create, or not the database, but the training he has um, on content that already exists and that was made by human. Okay, he's not inventing anything, right? He's basically a well-trained model, right? So basically, the thing is that those things already exist, and sometimes it's giving you kind of almost word for word some things, or even if you are using DALL-E, so the images they are based on what other artists did. So there is a real question of who owns what, who owns what the model is creating, if it's so based on what is already existing from a human. So there is a lot of questions about copyrights and stuff like this. It's very ethical questions. Ethical questions still up right now. So be careful. real thing, why I'm putting that up is that if you are using ChatGPT or DALL-E or whatever to create content, images, videos, text, blog articles, or whatever, be very, very, very mindful of this, because once it's online and you are publishing it, no matter what it is, um, you are exposing yourself maybe to lawsuits if you're not careful enough. So double check everything and seek the sources if needed. And finally, privacy. Privacy. So technically, everything you're inputting into ChatGPT is reused as training basis. So you do not want to give any kind of confidential information at all. Okay, really, none of them. So just to give you a quick example of a prompt to improve. So this prompt is pretty bad, right? Think of ways to sell more stuff, right? There is nothing in it, absolutely nothing. um, the way you can improve this prompt, because basically this is maybe what you want to have ideas to sell more of the product you are creating, could be this, like, again, I want to give him a clear rule and an action. Imagine you're a salesperson, a sales manager that wants to improve conversion rate into your team. You give him a context, the team is performing well, but you want a breakthrough. And you give him a specific expectation. I want you to brainstorm 5 ideas that I can action immediately to improve sales conversion. So even though this is a bit long, it's very precise, it contains all the elements I want, and even I would say that you could go even a bit deeper to improve it. You could say, for instance, like, how many people is there in the team? Because if you have a 200-person sales team and a 5-person sales team, the actions that you can get are very, very different. Okay? So it's just an example. Of course, the slides will be available into the link on YouTube. So now it's time to go on a bit about Microsoft Copilot. I'm just going to answer a quick question. So Olivier, so he asked if the order between instruction and data was important. For example, is there a difference between summarize this text and here is my text? I would say no, unless you have several data to provide. But again, if you have several data to provide, depending on what you do, again, one instruction, one prompt. If you have several documents, I would say, like, analyze all the, you put several documents and say analyze all those documents and do something about it, or you just give him in one prompt, do me a summary of this document, and then another prompt, do me a summary of this other document. Okay. Thanks. Pretty interesting. So it gives you a lot of polite answer and platitudes. Can you teach him to speak your style? Yes. Basically giving feedback and say, yeah, no, please be more thorough, be more direct, stuff like this. Will kind of work in this way. Uh, well, that's the thing. So he is not able to, and this is a limitation, he's not able to answer everything because he has some constraint, some rules in order to not give you answers that are a bad answer, I would say. So if it's about cybersecurity, I'm afraid maybe he does not want to help you because it could be used with evil intentions, I would say. So yeah, that's the way. Indeed, Frank also this said something very interesting. It's kind of the same thing, but just ask ChatGPT, like, be straight to the point, and it will stop the platitudes. All right. Um, yep. And Bruno, unfortunately, you did good one, I would say. To improve reliability, I do not know anything that you can do to improve yeah, its reliability, technically speaking, other than prompting properly. But this is not really the thing you are asking. I do not know a way for you to make it more performant for you in this way, technically speaking. Uh, so it's an interesting one. So can you ask ChatGPT to modify your picture? Normally, ChatGPT is not really made for this, right? I do not really know. It exists for sure, but I do not really know an AI uh, kind of model that does it. So you need to look for it on the internet, but there is specific ones made for it. Maybe inside the ChatGPT add-ons somewhere if you click on explore the GPTs, maybe somewhere in there, if it can come up, uh, there is something that you're looking for to modify images, but I'm not too sure about it, to be honest. Um, Perfect. So actually, I'm just going to switch on Microsoft, right? So Microsoft Copilot, basically working the same thing as ChatGPT does. I have here Copilot. And Copilot is going to basically do what ChatGPT is doing. I can ask him kind of anything. However, what is very nice is that it is integrated into Microsoft 365, right? And so if you're into a company, it's insane because you can ask him to give you information about something specific to your company. For instance, something I can do is that I can ask him calendar info about something that is in my organization. So I can just click on this and tell him like what is my next time with, for instance, Maria. And normally I don't think I have any kind actually of yeah, I don't have any meeting scheduled with my. Actually, I have zero scheduled meeting with anyone because I'm not using Teams that much in my in my job. But just to show you, it was just to show you basically that this is the kind of stuff you can do, and that's pretty insane actually. So you can ask him for history about what you've done. What I wanted to show is maybe more in Teams how you can use it. Again, so the thing is that it needs to be activated by your organization, right? It cannot work just like this. So you need to pay for it and you need it to be done and activated. But what I've done here, for instance, I have a message from Maria, two messages actually, telling me that we need a course for some time and with different deadlines, as you can see. So now I'm just going to click Open Copilot. And actually, in there, I can ask him to summarize the message and give me the most important dates, as you see, right? And that's pretty nice because it's giving me exactly the first message, everything I should know. And if I've been clicking OK and then not really reading it, I can ask him to give me more information about it. Okay. However, it's limited in there, okay, because the Copilot into the chat is not as performant and not performant, but is not doing the same thing as Copilot in general or Copilot in Excel or Copilot in PowerPoint. Basically, the model is the same, but there is what we call a bot that is going to focus the model on specific actions. For instance, here, if I want to translate the conversation in French, it's going to tell me no normally. It's going to tell me I cannot do it. Sorry, I think my connection. So yeah, I cannot do it because his abilities of the model in this instance is only to extract insight and give summary. Okay, not anything else. So that's important to understand because here it's specialized into understanding and compiling text, while if I'm using it into Microsoft, it's very different. Oh, in Microsoft, into Excel, it's very different. Then the model is optimized to do something else. So for instance, I'm just going to delete those two columns. Sorry, this one. No, actually the two of them. If I can click on it. What? Well, I'm just going to hide the columns because I do not seem to find delete. Anyway, So here I have a CSV, basically, normally, that is made from sales to people from a company, right? And I want Copilot to help me to improve something. So basically, I'm just clicking on Copilot. Once it's activated, you can just click on it here, and it's going to give me this thing here. So the first thing it's telling me is I need to select an Excel table. So basically, here it's not working. Here it's working. This is converted into an Excel table. And so I can click anywhere I want, and it's going to analyze everything. So basically, I can just ask him for something that is already here. So I can ask him to create some formulas. I can ask him to edit some things. I can ask him to understand the data. So first thing I'm going to ask, for instance, is, I don't know, give me in a bar chart the top 5 best sellers. I'm just going to give him this, and we'll see what he does, right? Again, and this is the most important thing. It's all about prompting properly, right? I have been straight to the point. I gave him a clear action. I want the top 5 bestseller in the um and then restriction. I want the 5 top bestsellers in a bar chart. And you see, it's giving me this bar chart. And if I want, I can click here, add to a new sheet. And I have my bar chart ready to be updated with the table, etc., to be used whatever I want in here. So it's pretty good because it could ask you to know a bit more about Excel to do it normally. Okay. Other thing I can do, so I can tell him that's what I wanted. Yeah, etc., etc. But I won't do it here because I need to get a form. Other thing I want to do, I want a revenue column. So create, uh, oops, sorry, create a new column. Okay, something's wrong. A new column based, uh, that is show cool that is called revenue. It should be the product of quantity by unit price. Well, I'm just going to put revenue free because I have already 2 columns already existing. Yeah. No? Oh, okay. And so here is going to show me what is the function is used. And if I over here, normally it should be, well, you see in column N, sorry, I'm lagging a lot. It's showing me the results in order to see if it is correct before doing the job. And here I have my column revenue free. Actually, I can also just do some data quality stuff. So delete columns I, J, and K. So it's going to take a bit of time. And it's going to do it normally. Sorry, that is very, very slow. And so you see, it's done it. Something you can do also is extract data from a column to put it into another one. It's asking me a lot of feedbacks today. So I can ask him to create a column domain that takes the characters after in column E. So I'm just basically what I want is that everything that is after the uh, at here into the mail address, I want it into a new column that is called domain, right? I wanted to know, I don't know if it was all from Adventure Works or something like this. And you see it's doing it just very nicely like this. Okay, so you can do a lot of things. We are not going to go throughout everything you can do into Microsoft Copilot, but just know it's also exists in PowerPoint to create slides, right? Very useful. You can ask him to create for you a presentation about, I don't know, generative AI, for instance, and it will give you um, what is inside the slides. And you have another tool that is called Designer that also use AI, but not Copilot, I think, in order to personalize with words your slides. So that's fantastic, really. Uh, it's just very, very nice. All of this, you need to have Microsoft 365 stuff. So I'm just going to take this occasion to answer maybe a few other questions. So okay. So JC, basically you want to know how to add Copilot into Excel. You need a Microsoft 365 license with Copilot integrated, and then you just need to activate the option. If you are into a company and the company is providing you with 365, you need to ask them to upgrade with Copilot and to activate the Copilot feature for you. So that was my demonstration. And so you see that, and I think everybody, yeah, it's pretty expensive. It could be expensive. No, it's not free at all. So basically, everything is that we've seen is kind of incredible. It begins to be more into our day-to-day life, I think, but it's still brand new, kind of. But the problem with this is that it takes up a heavy, heavy toll on environmental and resources, right? And today, more than kind of ever before, the environment and being green is kind of the core of what we do, or at least it's in the back of our minds, right? You are doing some uh, I don't know, it's called in English, like you are putting the glass into containers, you're putting the boxes into other containers, etc., etc. Selective, so I don't know, I don't know how it's called, sorry, but you see the gist, right? I think. And so you are doing this, but you are using ChatGPT like 7 hours per day. Does not really add up, right? So it's just those slides, they are not to tell you if you are using ChatGPT, you are condemning us, right? It's not the aim. It's just to give you the knowledge and for you to understand better what's the cost behind it, other than taking like a subscription. Okay. So the first thing is consumption, right? What does it do? Basically, a single data center is technically consuming the equivalent electricity of 50,000 ohms. Okay, so that's a lot. That's a lot. I think this is Zuckerberg that recently said that the next models for LLMs and AI would require kind of a small nuclear power plant to power up the training. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind, right? It's not that green because we don't see it. It takes up a lot of resources. Just know it. Basically, if you want to put it into waters, 50 queries on the GPT-3 model, so the less, like the one that is the less effective, right, is going to consume half a liter of water. So 50 queries go very, very, very fast on ChatGPT or any kind of LLM. So just remember what it kind of costs when you do it. The thing behind it is that basically, sometimes, and this is kind of the mistake, you are using ChatGPT, or even myself actually, using ChatGPT as a way to do a quick search, a search that you could do on Google actually, right? So that's great because you don't have to look out for Google and go out through several websites to find the information you want. But sometimes this information, you can have it in like the same amount of time or a bit longer, and the query you are doing is way more costly with ChatGPT or any LLM than you would be doing using Google. That is already a bit expensive in energy, etc. So just remember this. Basically, try to do queries that you can do yourselves and using Google, and to kind of last resort, use ChatGPT. So basically, how can we use AI a bit better to be more green? It's just kind of, again, I don't want to tell anyone what to do, right? It's just to advise you of solutions that exist, and just to so you know that using LLMs is costly. So using existing large language model, and do not generate your own. It's if it already exists and it's already performant, why create your own, right? Use model that are less larger with less parameters. Fine tune existing models. Kind of use the model when it offers values, right? If you are asking me for a translation, maybe go onto DeepL or go onto Google Chat, right? Because they are 3 times more hungry than Google, for instance, right? And basically, if the company or if yourself are doing kind of this carbon monitoring same thing, well, I would say include this AI activity because it counts, right? If you are counting plane trips, counts AI, kind of in a way, right? Um, so, in conclusion, I would like to point out the difference between artificial intelligence, that refers to machine or computer able to make a task or perform a task that is normally done by a human, versus generative AI, that is a part of AI, right? It's a subset of it. It's a tool in a toolbox that is designed specifically to create content, right? There is no perfect prompt. So just begin with a simple prompt and iterate and iterate and iterate again until you get exactly what you want, right? Do not forget to give it context and role. Save to your prompt to save some time. If you have a prompt that works well, you know this for a task that is going to be repetitive, then do not hesitate to save it into a prompt bank for future use. Task automation, we don't really get the subject, but basically, if you integrate AI into task automation, it gives you a lot of potential to fasten your days. However, it is very power hungry, right? As we just seen. And remember that it has a huge impact on the environment because it is extremely useful. It makes everything very easy. But yeah, it's an energivore, right? It consumes a lot of energy that we still have for now, but we'll see later on. Thank you for your attention. I hope this webinar did learn you a few stuff, that you've learned a few stuff from this webinar, rather. It's more English in this way. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And now I'm going to just go back to a few questions, maybe. So, Microsoft Copilot is add-in. Good question, Hisham. Thank you. Yeah, it's an add-on of Microsoft, actually, 365. So yeah, I think it kind of is like an add-on. You can, if you have a 365, you can add it to your existing 365 account. I think for about $10 more per month. I'm not too sure about the price though. Yo, welcome, Katarina. Indeed, I am myself also using ChatGPT like Google in my everyday life. And since I know it, I try to reduce it a bit. I'm trying to use it specifically when I'm blocking on the subject and I'm not finding the answer I want on the internet specifically, or if I'm running out of time on the deadline. And this is what I advise people to do in general now. Remember that also for one task, you could be doing, I don't know, 10 prompts. to just obtain one answer that you can reuse later on. So be mindful of this before doing all your actions, because if you do 5 actions, you do 50 queries, right? Already. Does ChatGPT for Excel have the same qualities as and function as Copilot? Actually, I've tried both, and I can tell you that as far as I see, Copilot in ChatGPT, ChatGPT in Excel, I did not really see the use of it. It did not really give me any kind of results that I was expecting and that I wanted. So I would say that no, the Copilot inside Excel is kind of the best tool you have to do it to use Excel. But it might come just from me not being able to use properly ChatGPT in Excel. And so Natalie, sorry, my mistake, everyone. Natalie says that we can use Copilot without Microsoft 365. So if this is the case, I apologize. Maybe you can, but I'm not really aware because I have a Microsoft 365. This is the way we've done it. But if it's possible, then you can maybe just pay for Copilot, indeed. So if there is no other questions, I think this is going to be it. I've been a bit over time. I'm sorry for it. I hope it was not too long for you guys. Thank you again for coming up, showing so numerous. It was great. Sorry for the quick issue during the introduction with my mic. I wish you all a very good weekend. The replay will be available later on with the prompt bank model that you can use, template, sorry, and the slides as well. Have a very nice weekend. Bye bye, everyone.